Let's check that video.
I believe that food is the conduit to love and to show people that we really deeply care about them and their success, and that every time we do the opposite, it is the opposite. It's disrespecting people. When you live that, even if it's briefly, it affects you forever. Because when you are in that, it's the loneliest place in the world, but also you feel like everybody thinks you're garbage. I want to be that person that's there for somebody else when this comes into that place. And I want to build an entire structure that's ready to help people. When I was looking at traditional meal programs that were being served by government and by other folks all across North America, I was nothing short of disgusted. It was really upsetting because the metric of success is how many people you can feed, not how many people you can feed well. Somebody says, hey, can I have some money because I'm hungry? Which happens all day, every day in every city that we know of. Most people ignore them, most people won't talk to them. So instead of pretending that that's not a thing, that people don't ignore and they don't give money, I just asked everybody why they don't give money. And they said, I don't give money because I don't trust people with it that I think they'll use for drugs or alcohol. Now that bias sucks, but it's real. So we have to address it as real. Just says sandwich. It's only redeemable for a sandwich. You can't trade it for cash. It's not worth any drugs. What I was most excited about is that you would hand it to somebody. So yes, I'm excited that you're gonna get a sandwich. Great. You're hungry, you have a place of inclusion you can go to. That's really cool. I'm way more excited that you're going to talk to somebody who's feeling super isolated and street entrenched. When I had done my second bout where I was unhoused, I was living with my best friend at the time in East Vancouver, I fell to addiction to drugs and alcohol. And in that time, I used to go to a place called Save On Meats that had been there since 1957. And I'd sit at the counter and I'd eat a burger for like $3.50 and I'd get really full. But I ate there because I didn't have a lot of resource. And I also felt a lot of judgment at the time, as you do when you're battling with addiction. And in that space were cops, cons, everybody in between. And it was one of those rare places where that occurs in this day and age. We employ people that have physical disabilities, mental disabilities, traditional other barriers, and that being a rap sheet. Somebody's made bad decisions in their life, I've made a bunch of them, and I've worked my way out of them. We don't look at any of that as a hindrance, we look at it as a diverse ability or something that you could actually bring to the job that's more important. Homelessness is a symptom. Poverty is what I care about. We have more than enough resources, times 100, to fix all of these things. They're just going to the wrong places. We just have to be smarter. We just have to.
This one definitely works. Add a minute, David. Okay, so that's us. That's what we do in Vancouver, amongst a lot of other things. And what I really do care about was already spoken about today. I feel like I just want to do 10 minutes of synthesis from what I've already heard from the stage. My dear friend Esther Dyson talks about getting communities to help themselves and to heal themselves. That's what we care about. Gary Bowles had a wonderful conversation up here about what the underlying norms are and what are the narratives and how do we change them. How do we convene? How do we get people together? That's how we solve everything. Yes, all of that. So I can skip through half this deck because I was going to talk about all that. If we think a lot about who inspires you and why in our work, because we think about what is the archetype of the human we aspire to be, right? And so there was all of the ones that I had on my wall as a kid, Michael Jordan, various rappers with good haircuts, all sorts of people. But the person that really inspired me was a couple bedrooms down or in another city. It's a family member. And the way that they approach things and the way they build community and convened, people like this inspire me every day. This gentleman, I was doing a talk in Kelowna in British Columbia, and I walked up to him, and I often feel more comfortable with people in the street. I started to have a conversation with him and just unloaded. I was like, I'm having a really tough day. We just found out we're in some litigation. I'm not stoked about it. 15 minutes goes by. He hasn't said a word. I was like, I'm sorry, man. I've been talking a lot about myself. How are you doing? And he was like, I'm doing okay. I was like, do you need some food? You want to get something to eat? He's like, no, I've eaten. He's like, but I want to show you something. And he grabbed this from the back of his cart and showed it to me. There's a very defining moment in that. When we talk about this, who are we talking about collaborating with? Just us? Because while we're all wonderful, we're going to leave a lot of people behind. And we talk a lot about what this means. There's an other or a them, and I catch myself doing it sometimes too. I'm like, when we're working with them, like, oh, there is no us and them. There's only us. And this is what's happening right now, is a continued divisive and deadly trend of categorization. Other. We talk about other all the time. We're just all us. So this is what I like to just start every day with, because I go into a lot of conversations. Even coming into this room, I still have this narrative of imposter syndrome. Thank God I've got so many friends here who are excited, so I feel more comfortable. Because I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing at the Ritz-Carlton in Half Moon Bay? Somebody did pass me their bags and asked me to check them. I politely declined. This is something else I think a lot about. Love is at the center of every single design. I'm a professor of innovation dynamics, and design thinking. I teach it. I taught at USC to the DSW program for a year and a half. I care about innovation deeply. But without love, there's no innovation. Because if we can't be connected, we can't innovate. This I care about, said by this awesome guy. This is also super important. I asked myself a question a bunch of years ago as I was suffering with crippling depression. And I said, am I just crazy? And so I thought, this is a great research project for me. I should find out if I am or not. So I asked a lot of doctors, and they said, yes, well, there's 4 things. When I synthesized it down, the 4 things that really define mental illness. This was one. They were like, do you have long-lasting sadness and instability? I was like, yes. Yes, I do. We do. How about excessive anxiety and worry? Yeah, I'm pretty worried. I'm anxious all the time. I feel like everything's burning and melting around us, and not just because I feel like that, because it is. Are you experiencing social withdrawal? Whatever do you mean? Are you having any trouble sleeping? Still can't follow. What's the prescription, doc? Now I know what the symptoms are. I've got those dialed. I have them all, so that's a problem. So I'm definitely crazy. What do I have to do? And they all said the same thing. This. Exercise, nourishment, gratitude. Practice something good. I was like, for who? Like, for you. I was like, okay. So I did all that. And then I still felt like shit. I was like, this isn't working. Is this the only prescription? They're like, oh no, we can definitely give you some really strong drugs. I was like, it took me a long time to kick those. You can keep them. So I thought I'd reframe the prescription for myself. And I share it with you because I think it's really important. So I exercise every day. My privilege is to help other people. I nourish you tomorrow night. You do have the means, but tomorrow night in the middle of the redwoods, if I don't feed you, nobody will. Practice gratitude to somebody else. I'm so grateful for Jim McCann right now, making an email introduction 15 months ago that had a long tail. Hope he heard that. Altruism, this word is a double-edged sword, isn't it? But embedding good in every part of your life. How do you layer it in? Easily. Might be chunky at first, but it gets better. And then the 5th one for me was this. We talk a lot. But what is the cost of true community wellness? So we're talking about wellness, and I think about this equally. If the community is unwell, everybody in the community, we're all unwell. You can't walk out of your house. You're in a good state, right? You've got rest, you've done yoga, had your power shake, all of your different meds, you're psyched. You walk down the street and you see somebody unhoused. You can pretend it doesn't impact you. I promise you it does. It lands somewhere, and that continues to fester. If we're all in a beautiful community, a beautiful space, you'll notice when we're segmented away from the rest of society, like we are right now, there's a different wellness because we're able to block it out. When we're in it, we can't. So people are always talking about this, and I think this is particularly resonant here, and I heard it earlier today. Thinking our way into new ways of living. I don't believe that that's possible. I think that we have to live our ways into new ways of thinking. So just go out and do stuff. Get messy, iterate. We heard that discussion earlier. And we live with this. We know that that's a fact. We know that we have so many things. But how do we do this? So one of the ways that we do this as a Better Life Foundation is get as many of you folks together with as many of the other folks I was talking about. And we sit and I cook. We feed you wine and beer. And we hope you open up. So I want to share that with you. Lights, please.
The Greasy Spoon was conceived to be the anti-gala. There's no democracy of being able to access advocacy. So you would have the $500 white tablecloth Maserati in the front of the hotel thing, but nobody ever left there an advocate. And the other side of that coin is in the advocacy space, there's no resource to generate. So it'd be like, here's a hot dog boil at the last minute in the park, and there wasn't a space in between to educate the average person. This is what's going on in our city. And at the same time, to be able to bring in chefs to really share their gift on their terms. Seeing the impact of the advocacy work on the general population, from arts, musicians, et cetera, being able to see themselves in the work, being able to enjoy an incredible meal, but become part of a bigger community is what I'm about. So the events that we did, New York, underneath the Williamsburg Bridge, with our partners Yo Stay Hungry, who work on education of brown and black people who are in marginalized situations, was so special. And then to skip out to the West Coast and do back-to-back dinners just outside the Tenderloin in San Francisco, and then in Oakland, in the center of gun violence for California. And just to be able to hit people with the conversation, the comfort of saying, here's food, I want to nourish you, I want to feed you, my chef friends, we're going to feed you. Now you're safe, you're in a container, and in that container, we're going to go deep. So that it's an iterative process of what does the South Side of Chicago really need? And who needs to be at that conversation? Who needs to be at the table? And then I will convene them.
To your breast, gonna put it to the test. You wanted it to be blessed, and in your heart, you know it to be true. You know what you gotta do.
So that's what the tour is about. And we are lining up 16, probably more like 24 destinations over the next 12 months to go and convene these conversations. By democratizing access to an event, by democratizing access to information and education, we can solve shit. But until we design like this, it's gonna stay the same. And if we can't use food as a transformative way to have these conversations, then I've failed.
that was my invitation to you. If that speaks to you, we're going to be in all of your cities this year, all of them. I don't even need to know which ones you're in. And this is my favorite quote. I'm going to finish with this because this is a brief talk. And I want you to think about the word food and replace it with anything else that you're thinking about, something that's right there boiling for you. Bad food is made without pride by cooks who have no pride and no love. Bad food is made by chefs who are indifferent or who are trying to be everything to everybody, who are trying to please everyone. Bad food's fake food. Food that shows fear and lack of confidence in people's ability to discern or to make decisions about their lives. Gives me goosebumps literally every time. That was said by this guy, also this guy. 1 in 4 people suffer from some type of mental illness. That's an absolute fact. I think that number is way higher. That means it's normal. The more we can talk about it, the more we can be with each other, the more we can save each other. When things get darkest, we got to be our brightest. We got to love our hardest. That's me. Look forward to cooking you dinner tomorrow.